All right, welcome everyone. This is a quick back-to-back episode of Drams with Cam. We did one last week, but we're very, very fortunate today to have a very special edition. Couldn't let the opportunity go, so we're doing one more. Elliot Faber from Sundays, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you here. Few of you may be familiar with the Sundays brand, and it's very interesting. A lot of people have asked me, like, why are you guys doing an event with Sundays? And you're going to find out why. So, Elliot, there are a couple of events that I've been to, and the word sake has come up. And the minute sake comes up, your name pops up.
Oh.
And apparently you are the sake guy in Hong Kong, as I understand it. So, he's got a very interesting title. And you are a?
Sake Samurai.
Sake Samurai. How cool is that, guys? So tell me, what does it take to be a sake samurai?
Well, I think it starts with volume and consumption over the course of a year. But after that, they look for other things. My passion for sake actually goes all the way back to Canada, where I'm from.
Okay.
I learned about sake from a really wonderful owner of a sake brewery who lives in Vancouver.
But the sake brewery would have to be in Japan.
Actually in Vancouver as well.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
That's interesting.
So I used to go to Toronto to visit my brother, to Vancouver to visit my brother, and I stumbled into this sake brewery, which was right near where he was located.
Okay.
And every time I went to visit, this gentleman who owned the sake brewery would teach me a little bit more.
And how long ago was this?
This was must be about 15 years ago.
Oh wow! So yeah, it's a long-term passion.
Yeah, it's a long term. It's been a long time. And when I moved to Hong Kong, I moved to help open Yardbird, which is now on Wingwalk Street.
Yes.
And I was blown away by the variety of sake. I was blown away at how easy it was to get it here, the fact that there were no duties, and I got lost in the world of sake.
So the average alcohol by volume on sake is how much?
It's about 16%.
Okay,
so more like wine.
Okay, so completely 100% duty free.
Yes, exactly. So it's perfect. And also the proximity to Japan, it's so close.
Yeah.
You get everything. So, the Yardbird became popular, it was busy, and I was just inspired by all the producers who were coming in, access to product, and I got a bit of a reputation as being a sake slinger before I was a sake samurai.
Okay.
And then I published a book about sake.
Fantastic.
And kind of all of these things happened, and there's a association, a government association in Japan called the Japan National Brewers Association, and the junior council nominates the sake samurai.
Nice.
And every year there's a group of people that get together, and it's about maybe 12 to 15, I think, on the panel, and they all nominate.
Wow. So from the time you started Yardbird to the time you got your title, what was the time frame? How long did it take you to achieve that?
It was about 6 years, roughly.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 years.
So it's been a process.
Yeah, it took some time. But I knew I wanted it by 2014. So
and multiple trips to Japan?
Many trips to Japan. And so I was nominated by a really great gentleman who was in his last year in this association, because he turned 50 that year, and after you're 50, then you're done.
Oh wow,
they throw you out.
That's a bit brutal.
Yeah, it is. And I guess he wanted to leave a legacy, and he nominated me, and the panel did not have to choose me as one of the sake samurai for the year, but they did. Wow. So I quickly studied up on my Japanese, went and delivered an acceptance speech in Japanese, and was honored to have the title. I did not get a sword, as I've been asked, but I got a fan, which is true. Okay. So my job and my passion is to share Japanese culture with everybody, not just sake, because after all, in Japanese, what we call sake is actually all alcohol. So technically, whiskey is sake, beer is sake, and in Japan.
But you brought something for us to taste that is what we understand as like sake.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is called Nihonshu.
Okay.
Nihon being Japan and shu being alcohol.
Right.
So even if you're in Hong Kong and you're reading the kanji or the Chinese for Japanese language, then you would be able to read it as Japanese alcohol.
Fantastic. So I know absolutely zero about sake.
Okay.
So I walk into City Super and I see all these bottles and I go, ooh, they're so pretty. That's about it.
Well, that's a start.
So walk me through this. What are we tasting today?
Okay,
I mean, how do we taste the sake? What makes a good sake, what makes a bad sake, what makes it an exceptional sake,
Yeah, well,
what makes it a Sunday sake.
I think what's most important about a Sunday sake is accessibility, because we love Japanese culture, as I mentioned, and we want to bring it to the world in a way that could make a Japanese person be familiar with it very quickly and recognize it and appreciate the quality of it, but make somebody who's not from Japan or somebody who's never been to Japan kind of gain accessibility to it very quickly.
Okay, let's start. Let's do the tasting.
Normally what happens when people are going to drink sake is if they're coming from an international palate, they're going to look for something that's a little bit drier.
Okay.
So this is the Sunday's Junmai, and we made it to be dry.
Okay.
And when I say dry, I mean almost like wine levels of dryness.
Okay.
First, I'm going to teach you something right from the beginning.
Yes.
You have to stop me as I pour for myself, because
What?
in Japan it's very rude to pour for yourself. So you have to catch my hand, and you have to.
As soon as you start.
Well, before I start.
Oh.
Exactly.
Then should
Just
I pour
like
for
that.
you?
Yes.
Oh no.
Oh, if you
allow
insist.
me. Allow
if you
me.
insist, then now we're already having good luck. So.
Okay, there you go.
Sunday's Junmai is made actually in the same place as the coffee Shochu, which we'll talk about later, in the prefecture of Hyogo. It's really near to Osaka.
Okay.
And the sake itself is a Junmai. It means that it's made only from rice, water, yeast, and koji mold.
Okay.
Koji mold is the tricky part that I'll go over very quickly, because at the end of the day, all it's doing is malting the rice.
Well, it's part of the malting process. Okay.
There's no real malting like the same way you do with barley.
But I was just wondering.
if you think about malting, you're concerned about converting starch into fermentable, soluble sugars.
Correct. Yes.
And that's what koji mold does.
Ah, okay.
Does that.
So do you normally when you get your sakes, do you normally nose it like
Absolutely.
a whiskey or?
So you'll look at it. You'll look at it for clarity.
Yeah.
This one does go through charcoal filtration, so it's quite clear and almost like see-through.
Yeah.
Whereas some sake that doesn't go through that, it's got like a greenish yellow characteristic.
Okay, kind of like that one.
Yeah. Well, this we'll get into in a minute, actually.
So
And
you swirl your sakes like wine, because I generally don't recommend people swirl whiskey because of the high alcohol content.
Absolutely. Here you can swirl it like wine. Yeah. But also it's the same as wine or whiskey tasting. You're looking for primary or tertiary kind of aromas. The first things that you're going to get on this sake are cereals, I think.
I wanted to say rice, but I thought that's kind of stupid.
I had to think twice before I was going to say, rice always comes to mind first. But that's a good sign.
Oh, it's
right?
a nice bowl of fun, you know.
So then, like chamomile, vanilla, those things start to come up a little bit as well.
Nice.
And what you get is
very smooth.
It's very smooth.
Very smooth.
Also, your mouth waters a little bit at the back. I mean, you can't expect wine-like acidity because it's made from rice and not from grapes. Exactly. But in order to get that mouth-watering characteristic, I think it's really desirable, and especially for people who don't drink a lot of sake.
Yes.
And when you have this, it just means that it's going to be very food-friendly, very versatile, or you can just drink it on its own.
And you obviously serve this cool because you brought it cool.
Yeah, so this sake in particular is actually great at any temperature.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, really great. You can even warm it up. It becomes more umami-driven, more rich. But really the versatility is
So generally, I know there's I don't know if it's just restaurant talk, but generally they say the better the sake, the cooler you should drink it, and if it's low grade sake, then you have it hot. Is that accurate?
I think it's part of my job as Sake Samurai is to try to dispel one myth at a time, and again, I won't go too far into the details, but what's important to note is that each grain of rice for this sake has had 35% of the outer layers removed. Okay. And that number is almost average on what you see for sake, and what happens is the more you remove, there's a positive stigma or an understanding that the more you remove of each outer layer, the better the sake is going to be.
So 35% of each grain of rice
is removed. They have
that's not a lot of rice left.
Well, but what people look for is a sake where they removed 50%, 60%, 70% of the outer layers.
So then what's left? I mean, what do you actually
What's left
distilling?
Is pure starch.
Ooh.
And we're not distilling, we're fermenting.
Fermenting, yes.
Yeah, and so pure starch is in the middle. Sake.
So that means you get higher sugars?
You get only sugar.
Yeah.
And so you lose these umami and these savory characteristics, and you gain sugar purely, which is going to become alcohol, and you gain fruity and floral aromas. The thing is that the sake where you remove the outer layers is always more expensive, because imagine if you need 1,000 kilograms of rice to make a batch of sake.
You're basically shredding your product.
Exactly. Yeah. So it always costs more money. There's always more processing involved.
And is it actually a better product?
To be honest, it's not.
Okay.
That's
brutally honest.
It doesn't mean that it's worse.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's worse.
Yeah.
It just means that you require more labor, more materials, and more time.
Okay.
Which all cost money.
Okay.
And
so it becomes more labor intensive, more time intensive,
and more resource intensive. So you pay more, and the name of a sake where you remove those outer layers is called Junmai Daiginjo, which is a reference to the processing. And if you read it in kanji, which is our simplified, which is our Chinese for Japanese people, if you read it, it reads as if it's premium, but it's premium by means of processing and not by means of the actual taste. But people here, they don't see that, because if it says premium,
then you want
and it costs more money, then it must be better. Yeah. So we try to explain that to people one at a time. And
so how much percentage of the rice has been removed on this?
For this one, they removed 35%, which is still a decent amount, to be honest.
So is there a minimum that you have to remove?
It depends on the classification.
Okay.
But for this one,
is a real rabbit hole, isn't it?
Yeah, you can go all day. But for this one, there is no minimum as long as you state what kind of sake it is.
Okay, great. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually go through the pricing as we go along, so our viewers can relate. So this was the first product, right? The Junmai. So this is normally at 360 ml. You guys normally sell it at about 140. We're offering it at 120. It's just a special for those guys who tuned in, and it's a very short promo. You have only up until the 18th. So if you want to pick up like 20 cases,
no problem.
Go for it.
I'll deliver it personally. So now we're going to get, and I think like one of the most important lessons that's an easy one to talk about is the difference between these two sake. Okay. So this is Junmai. This is pure rice. They add nothing. And there's very few things that you can add in the sake world. Okay. One of the things is spirit.
You can add a different spirit?
You can.
Oh, wow,
so it's often spirit made from sugar beet. It's like a very, very neutral spirit. Okay. Sometimes it's made from rice. It's usually like the cheapest, most neutral spirit that a brewery can get.
And why would they add it?
Well, traditionally it's tied back to war times, by means of Japan being bombed and rice being in a shortage, and people need to eat rice, but they also need to drink. So they would make sake and they would kind of dilute it down. That's one theory and one explanation. But over time, over the last, say, 60, 70 years, researchers in Japan have become more familiar with the actual process of production of sake. And what it turns out is that certain flavors and components are more soluble in a higher alcohol solution than they are in water. So you're only allowed to add spirit at a very specific time, and that's after you've done your fermentation and before you've pressed your sake from your solids, your fermented rice solids. Okay. And so what they do is...
Is there a percentage of maximum you can add? Or?
There are, but that's another rabbit hole.
Let's do that.
So even though there is this opportunity, you can only add it at the time that you separate. Okay. Oh, this one you can use the same glass, otherwise we'll run out. This is the easy one too.
So then I need to finish this.
Oh yeah, you do.
Actually,
that was part of my plan.
I'd actually take a separate one because I want to come back. I want to come back to it. I normally do that at the end of every tasting.
And you don't have to stop.
Yeah, come on. Let me do
it. I appreciate it.
I'm hooked on this, right?
And you remember this every time you go for a Japanese restaurant.
I'm going to make sure only ladies pour sake out from now on. So I can hold their hands.
So they add the spirit right before pressing. They extract additional flavors from the rice solids, and then they press. And the reason you know that they're not just adding alcohol to get you drunk faster or stretch out the product is because they actually dilute it back down.
Oh wow, really?
So this sake itself is actually only 15% alcohol. And so
And the spirit that they tend to add tends to be at what?
It's like 50, 60.
Oh wow!
It's like industrial.
Industrial stuff.
Yeah.
It's like basically solvents.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cheers.
But it works. Cheers.
So how do you cheers on sake?
It's a slippery slope. We could start gentle, but then
no, I mean what's the term? Like we say cheers.
Oh, kanpai.
Kanpai.
Yeah.
I always thought that meant bottoms up.
It means that too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely coconut is like
a
big thing here.
You know,
and I should say,
we're Indians and we have like this dosa and chutney every Sunday.
Oh yeah.
And I'm suddenly remembering, I'm getting hungry with this.
Yeah, I mean, these sake they're really satisfying and really nice for matching with different flavors. This kind of like just primes your palate for anything that has umami or anything that has sugar or even spice.
But I have to say, psychologically, it's very weird drinking something that's this cloudy.
Yes. Well, let me tell you why. So a lot of people say that this kind of sake, nigori sake, is unfiltered. Okay, but by law in Japan, all sake must be filtered. So this is
filtered?
Yes. Otherwise, it's like home brew, and it's actually not legal to sell like sake out of your home. So the term nigori actually means cloudy in Japanese, and so it's a reference to the cloudy appearance of the sake. So all sake is filtered, even this one. This is just a coarse filtration.
So the degree of filtration leads to the cloudiness?
Yes.
Because it's coarse and not fine?
Yes, and this is a fine filter.
Okay.
And the reason it's so clear is because they filter it through charcoal. Charcoal is a not mandatory but often done process with sake. They do it to remove impurities as well as color from the sake.
Okay.
And they also can help preserve it. So this one is also filtered through charcoal, but it's coarsely filtered through mesh, so you get a cloudy appearance.
With completely different noses on it.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah, same rice, similar ABV.
And in terms of the polishing, is this also at 35%?
It's a little bit. This is 32%, so it's similar. And another really interesting thing is they both use the same yeast, and the yeast is from a flower, a white flower called the Akari. So it's a white flower yeast.
I'm finding the nose of this very, very, very interesting. I mean, it's not something that
it has that
one normally would come across as a fragrance.
I always get that coconut and white flower, like almost chamomile, like kind of characteristic, which I find here, but even more.
It's almost like a Thai dessert.
Yes,
you know?
yeah, rice pudding.
Yeah, exactly.
And then a little more sweetness, a little more texture, obviously, because of the lees, the sediment that's in the sake.
I have to say, honestly, I'm enjoying this a little bit more.
That happens a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay, so before I forget, again, it's at 360 ml. Normal's 140. We have it at 120 until Friday only. But it's interesting.
That is a crash course into the world of sake, but I think we need to get to the grains.
I'm eyeing the whiskey because I'm a whiskey guy, right?
Yes. and I want to make sure that you get lots of chances to ask questions. And this product I'm really proud of because it's taken us forever to make it. It took me 3 years and multiple trips to Japan just to make a supply agreement with our partner producer.
Okay.
And this is the product. This is Sunday's.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, it's something I'm really happy that we're able to share this. You'll notice the bottle is 750 ml.
Yeah.
That's because this exact bottle is being sold all over the world.
One size.
And we needed to make it that size.
Okay.
Europe is calling now, so we're looking at how we're going to change the format.
They don't accept 750?
It has to be 700 in most countries. Okay. Yeah, which is a separate nightmare.
Yeah.
But we make this whiskey in collaboration with Sasano Kawashizo.
Yeah.
They're in Fukushima Prefecture. They've been making alcohol for over 250 years.
So this is a blended.
This is, blended.
It's a blended.
Yeah, so malted grain is a term that I really learned from Ichiro Akuto, who's kind of like one of the modern heroes of Japanese whiskey.
100%, yeah.
And when...
Icon of the trade.
Yeah, and he basically, he was not lying. It was still a blended whiskey, but I think that he even told me that it's almost a negative kind of stigma. And so once you're calling it blended, people might have a negative connotation. So malted grain was a way to kind of dress it up and explain a little bit.
So it's at 40%?
At 40%, malted barley and corn spirit.
So aged no less than 3 years at 40% alcohol by volume.
That's correct.
Drinking method: neat on the rocks, in a highball, or in your favorite cocktail, created by Sunday Spirits. Awesome.
We almost were
Let's
going
do
to do
this.
highballs today, but we decided that could be a whole other class.
Yeah.
So I love
Cocktail. We
highballs.
can do another cocktail
Absolutely.
event.
So highballs are something that are very near and dear to my heart. It's something I discovered in Japan, and then kind of brought back, and we launched an entire highball section on our menu.
So if you ever do a highball event, then I'm going to abdicate the seat to my wife because
Okay.
because she's the cocktail girl, and I can't take anything with ice in it.
Okay, well, no
My
problem.
throat
yeah.
completely locks up. So
Well, I'm glad because I also like to drink this neat on its own. So
cheers.
cheers. So
I like it.
I mean, in making this whiskey, we wanted to make sure that we captured the sweetness that is kind of something that you almost expect out of a lot of Japanese whiskeys. Even something like Yoichi, which is definitely on kind of the more peated and robust style, like really trying to aim after a Scottish inspiration, it still has like a softness to it. So we wanted to capture that. With
But this tastes higher than a 40% alcohol whiskey.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very nice mouthfeel.
I think the grain helps to bring out like a bit of that.
Can you
texture.
share with us the proportions? Or
It's actually close to a 50-50,
50-50?
but we cannot say exactly how much.
It's nice. It's a beautiful aroma on it.
Mostly ex-bourbon cask. However, there is some port, winewood, and sherry cask that do go in. And I always say it's like salt and pepper because we do batches of it, and every time it's going to be a little bit different.
Okay.
And that's why I find the no age statement category really fascinating because it's always like we talked about with the sake. It's one of those things that's always going to cost less.
Yeah.
But yet it's a craft to create a
So
consistent.
did you come up
product.
with the taste profile, or
I worked with the distiller
Okay.
and with the people at Sasnokawa
Okay.
to choose the profile that I wanted, but I don't have experience in actually producing whiskey.
good job?
I know, thank you.
Good job.
I know what I like, and I know what I wanted it to be. There's also those appley notes too, on the nose, I think.
So this is the NAS, right?
This is NAS. Yeah, so
So
no
at,
statement.
at 750, it's regularly 650. We have it at 550 for the next 4 days. It's very nice.
Thank you so much. Average age.
I have to say, I mean, this does not come across as a 40% whiskey.
Yeah.
It's way more complex. It's
Yeah.
it carries some fantastic notes. It's wonderful on the nose. There's absolutely no harshness to this. It goes down so smooth. I haven't even added any water to it. It was so smooth that I completely.
Yeah. I'll do the same.
That's not-
Thank you.
It's
I
very,
think
very
we need to
fresh.
make our own branded eyedroppers here, whiskey droppers. It's a good idea. Yeah, so it opens right
It
up.
opens.
Yeah.
It's very, very nice. It's very refreshing.
So another thing we get on this, I often get like lemon peel or yuzu peel. So when we make our highballs, we always garnish with yuzu or lemon as well.
Oh, that's a smart
Because
idea.
that subtle characteristic of the oils that are going to come out of the citrus just like lift right out of the whiskey.
Really easily sip on this all night long. And at $550, that's
I've actually sipped on it all night long, and I can tell you it's a great experience, even in the morning.
right. And then we have a very interesting looking bottle there.
Yeah, so this is a very, very special bottle. There's not too many of them. There's a few that just went to Singapore.
Okay.
But yeah, there's still some here. And this is the Sunday's single cask. And this is a single cask that was actually made with the help and support of Ichiro Akuto.
Yes,
And it's comprised of whiskey from both Hanyu and Chichibu Distillery.
Wow.
And
That's
interesting-
quite a feather in your cap.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, yeah, and in some ways, this project was even harder than this project. because this just the timing and the expense and the coordination was insane.
I can't even imagine, honestly speaking.
I mean, looking at it, I'm still proud of it, and I think it's an amazing cask. It was actually aged in Scotland.
Oh, really?
Yes. So it has a really interesting story and journey, and it was bottled and shipped right here, completely undiluted, because I didn't want the water from Scotland to go into the whiskey, because it was all Japanese water.
Yeah.
So we basically took the wind and the aging elements.
So the cask went from Japan to Scotland.
That's correct.
And then from Scotland here?
Bottled in Scotland.
Bottled in Scotland. Okay.
Yeah. One cross overland journey was enough.
Okay, so let me refresh my palate.
Sure. Oh, that's a good sound.
See, it's not only me, guys. I do this very often. I pop a bottle and I pause and I say, what a great sound. Everybody looks at me like I'm freaking bonkers, alright?
No.
But there's no other sound like it in the world.
It is. It's a very rewarding sound, and it's like anticipation. Okay, so here you have Sunday single cask, bottled at cask strength.
Cheers.
This is one of 312 bottles.
Only 312 in the world.
That's correct.
Vatted malt bourbon cask.
7 years.
57%.
Yes, sir.
Oh, nothing at the back. I like that. 7 years?
7 years. So this is why I thought you
Silence,
might
please, while we try this. Yeah, that's good. That's nice.
You know when you
get a smile on your face when you drink a whiskey. There's nothing like it in the world.
I love when you can taste the grain. You know, when you can actually you can taste every part. You can taste the barrel, you can taste the grain, and that's what this cask delivered for us.
Very nice.
So, and that means a lot coming from you, because I know you had a dram or two in your day.
No, this is very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you for opening a bottle for us to taste.
It's a pleasure.
Wow, this is really nice. We have something at the end of the row over there, but I don't know if we're gonna get there, because I don't think I'm leaving this glass ever.
Oh, you put it aside. This is just dessert, so it's fine. Like peaches and orchard fruit.
It really is way more aromatic than I expected it to be. Apricots.
Yeah.
I think it has all the expected notes and a few. I mean, it's just one of those things that it's almost an aroma that's in the process of blossoming. It just gives you more and more and more. And I love whiskeys like that. I love whiskeys that just, there's no end to them.
Also, I find that adding water just brings out the richness on the palate as well. Like it doesn't dilute.
It doesn't. In fact, the more I add, I'm starting to get the grassiness.
Yeah.
Almost a little bit of dry hay now.
Definitely.
Right? That's yummy stuff. I have to cheers you one more time on this.
Thank you so much.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't leave any of that in the glass. Very nice. Very, very nice.
Oh yeah. Especially when you take like a proper sip.
So this was the single cask. Oh, that's a whole different price point.
Yes, it is.
Hang on, guys, don't get excited. It's a whole different price point.
Yes, it is.
Retail price $5,500, and we have it for 4 days at $4,675. And yes, we are going to take that $5. Wow, that's that's quite a price point.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at the process of getting the single cask, number one, and then really the unfortunate part of it all is the import duties. I mean, we pay 100%.
So this is all legit.
Yeah.
All legit.
Oh yeah, there was no smuggling of this. And part of the reason being is that this was only for the Hong Kong market. Okay. So it was kind of a
how's it fared so far? I mean, you have 312 bottles that you bottled. How's it fared?
People that drink it love it,
yeah.
But it's not been reviewed by any like formal whiskey critics.
Great.
So it's very vindicating to have you taste it and enjoy it because I think that it's just one of those things that somebody has to want to taste. Yeah. Otherwise, they're not gonna.
No, I think anyone who doesn't taste this has lost out in their overall whiskey experience.
I think it completes.
I think it's definitely something that any whiskey lover should try. I mean, are these served at bars and hotels and restaurants?
There's a few bars and hotels that sell it. None right now after 6 p.m. Unfortunately.
Okay, but anybody who is not in the mood to buy a bottle, which I recommend you should, but
I would go to Ronin, of course.
There you go.
That would
go
be
there and try a dram. It's really an experience. It's an experience. Very impressive whiskey.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to have another dram before we have.
Absolutely. I have to join.
And what's at the end of the row?
So this is dessert. This is coffee shochu. And this is something that that we used to make at Yardbird.
Okay.
We changed coffee roasters many times. We changed the recipe a number of times. And eventually we got it down perfect. But it was selling so fast that we couldn't continue to make it consistently ourselves in the restaurant.
And you need
ice
and so we need to take a creative pause here while we get a shaker and ice and that noise over there is not working. It's work in progress for this.
The best barback in town as well, helping on this. Mr. Rick Goss.
So
Thank
this
you, sir.
22% alcohol, 45-day aged coffee soju.
Shochu.
Shochu.
So soju would be the Korean product in which there is no regulation or control.
Okay.
This is shochu, and shochu is only made in Japan. Okay. It's a spirit that can be made from multiple materials. This is made from rice shochu from Kumamoto, which is actually a protected appellation.
I like words like that.
Yeah, it's a real. It's the truth. And so it's really cool because it's not common.
So should we get regular glasses for this? Or
no, you can have it out of a snifter for sure, or out of the little, the wine one, the wine snifter there. Yeah, as you wish. Yeah. But yeah, definitely you don't need to go out of a shot glass. I'm just gonna. So this is made actually at a sake brewery, but we asked them to make it for us because they can control things like ABV, they can measure, they can measure pigment, they can do all these things. So our friends at Tsubosaka Shuzo, which is a brewery not far away from Rairaku, where Sunday Sake is made, they're all kind of neighbors and they're my favorite people in the sake industry, and they actually make this for us. So
this is cool stuff.
The reason that we shake it is that we want to get a crema, like a nice foam.
Do you get the foam on top?
Oh yeah. It's going to look like an espresso, so you can kind of pour your kids in the morning, while you're having a normal coffee.
You're a fake I can see the froth is right away. Oh dude, this looks awesome. There you go. Everyone behind the screens now, guys, is jealous, and I can see them. Their mouths are watering.
All of them. So.
Cheers.
Cheers. So this is real coffee taste, not like all the sugar that you find in other kind of like the other coffee.
But why am I getting a little bit of that soya saucy sort of fragrance as well?
It's just the roast of the coffee beans.
Oh, you could get addicted to this really easily.
It's
so
not
so basically just pour it out of the bottle into an ice shaker
and shake it hard and strain it out, and then you're done. And then you get this this is the best part of the product too. I love that we get this.
It's nice. This is awesome.
So
I can see myself serving this to my guests after dinner. It's fantastic.
It's kind of a rite of passage when you go to Yardbird and Ronin because often added there.
Wow. Yummy.
Mm-hmm. So you see like super, almost like dark chocolate, like bitter chocolate.
Bitter chocolate.
Yeah.
But I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what you expect at the end of a meal, right? You
Yeah.
want something like that.
Yeah.
You're either going one side where you're having a dessert wine, which is super sweet,
Yeah.
or you're going something like a dark bitter chocolate,
Yeah.
dark roast coffee.
Often I find that the coffee liqueurs can be like too much sugar, just too like viscous, right? Here I like it because it's like almost like a cold coffee, like
Yeah,
a
it
cold
is
brew.
fantastic. Cold brew. There's somebody in this room that likes cold brews.
Mhm.
Smiling there in the background.
We'll have one for one of these.
This was fantastic.
So
Did we have this on the price list? Oh, we did.
yes.
All right. So that bottle is $360, I think. But the actual product that you buy for personal consumption is actually at a full $720, and instead of being $450, which is regular price, you get it at $380. So guys, if you guys are interested in any of these products, drop us a line. Dram Good Stuff. Promo's good until 18th. Any parting words? Did we forget to cover anything? Is there anything else that we should know that I forgot to ask about?
I think most important is to hit up Dram Good Stuff. If you have a question for them that they can't answer, then they will ask me, and I will get you the answer.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you. We appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much.
Guys, Elliot from Sundays. It was a fantastic experience. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Good night.